of Education Finance Committee on September 12th, 2024, 2:34 p.m. at the District Education Services Center, Conference Room E, and on remote video hybrid conferencing. The meeting will be
Live streamed by county council.
live streamed on county channel. Okay. And requests for public comments were accepted earlier. Committee members present are myself and Mr. Campbell. We don't have Ms. Hay on as of yet.
No, I don't see her.
So we're going to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda. I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to have a motion to, we don't have any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Like a motion to approve the August 21st, 2024 committee meeting minutes. And I will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Monthly Board of Education budget. Do you have a copy of that? It's the next item on the agenda. And as you can see, we're at the very start of this year, and we have expended 16.7% of the board's budget. We're going down very quickly. I don't see anybody's expenditure that is outside of tolerance, although the very first object on here is 533202, and it says travel state. It's at 81.8%. You know what that's who that is and what that's for?
To state, what's the? The full section. Oh, that is the legislative. We have to divide out we registered everyone for the conference, and then we'll go back down and put it toward each person.
Oh, okay, so it just hasn't been redistributed yet.
Correct.
Okay, that's your holding account. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appears to be, everything seems to be okay there. Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions about that?
No.
Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions about the monthly board budget report?
I do not, sir. I reviewed it. Thank you for asking.
All right, thank you. Well, moving on. The June 2024 and July 2024 transparency reports. There are relatively big reports. Mr. Campbell, have you had a chance to look at those? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Well, I do have a question. Yeah, here's the question. Special revenue finance, this is on page 7 of 12, $100,000 report.
100.
This is the June report.
The $100,000 or the transparency?
I didn't get a copy of the transparency report. I have only the July transparency report.
In the packet from July.
This time.
It should be the big, that one is that July transparency.
This is July's.
Yes, sir.
Didn't get a June.
Right, we didn't, I think that was an oversight on my part. So we'll have to include June with next,
All right.
as well.
Let's put June off to the side then, the $100,000 report, because I don't want to do the transparency report.
Yes.
So I'll get that next
So we
time.
have July in the packet.
We have July.
Yes.
I have July report. All right, we'll move to the July report, transparency first. And Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions on that? Okay. And Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions on that?
No, sir.
All right, I have a number. Page 3. This is an Amazon account. It's on July 7th, 19th. Classroom supplies, early childhood programs at Davis Early Childhood Center. The reason I flagged that is because it's for exactly $1,000. I don't know how they order classroom supplies and it comes at exactly $1,000. Every other one is an odd number with pennies. Whenever I see an even number, my alarm bells go off. That does not. So I'd like to have that particular.
And that is page 3 of 44.
Page 3 of 44.
And
And it's down about almost 3/4 of the way down. Davis Early Childhood Center. $1,000.
Right, we'll certainly look
Okay.
into that
All right.
one, and, yeah, early childhood supplies. And,
Yeah. Okay, let's go down to page 5. Got another one. Primary programs, this is there in the bottom, special revenue, federal. It's for classroom supplies again, $1,000. Will Branch Elementary. We pay taxes on that stuff too, so that's why it doesn't, it smells a little bit. All right, page 7.
those two are that happen to be the same transaction number, so I think this was split up between multiple schools. But we will further research in detail. That transaction number TN is identical in both of those items.
So it's $2,000.
It's all on the same,
Okay,
support.
There might be
There
others.
probably will be more.
Yeah.
okay. Page 7. Bank of America, June 2024 P-card transactions. I annotated this just to note to the public that in June, we paid $2,048,025.26 in P-card. And just for scope of what the P-card amounts are, and the things that we're looking at are on the P-card account.
Yes, so it's a duplicate
It's a
of
duplicate.
transactions.
It's a
It's giving you the
duplicate.
grand total, but
Exactly.
all of them are detailed
Exactly.
there.
But I just want the public to know that the board is looking at every P-card transaction, right? And I think you know why. Page 9. This is probably an operations piece that I'd like to have answered, or there's something going on. But the amount for River Ridge Academy and Ladies Island Middle School, and River Ridge Academy, that bill was $2,459.05. And Ladies Island Middle School was $4,788 and 23 cents. That's, most other ones are less than 1,000 and many are less than 500. So I got two schools, yet somehow Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority are costing, either we're flushing the toilets a lot in that school, or someone left a hose on or something. But I'd like to have passed over to the operations committee to take a look at these outliers in our bills from Beaufort Jasper. There's also one at the very bottom of the page, May River High School.
Yeah, in some cases, they're duplicate, there's two line items, so River Ridge has two separate line items that equal a little over 4,000.
Mhm.
And I see that Liaison Mill is a little over 4,000, and there's some others.
Yeah,
The facilities office, used formerly the finance department, but now the facilities and operations department has a tracking mechanism, each month in, a state recommended system. It used to be School Dude. I think it's changed to an energy management company. And they track water usage, energy usage by school and see any abnormal patterns. So there's an assigned person in the operations division who is designated to look for any anomalies. And then they are to report those anomalies to the school principal, the operations folks,
Okay.
to look to see what the issue is. And sometimes they find a faulty spigot on the
Yep.
soccer field,
Right.
or,
right.
different things like that. So we're able to alert maintenance as well
Okay.
at the same time.
All
So,
right.
but we'll certainly,
Yeah, just
pass that along to
pass it
them.
along to
and maybe they
operations,
can,
pass it along to.
But there is a process that, yes, for
And,
monitoring.
and Colonel, I'll like to learn more about that myself. So thank you for highlighting that. But I do know that there's some monitoring systems in place, but I haven't reviewed that part of the report. So thank you.
Okay, page number 9, I'm sorry, page number 10. Beaufort Orthopedics Athletic Training Services. Pupil services and activities, $9,000. Of course, that's an even number. I assume there's also one for Boss Orthopedics for May River High School for $9,000. I assume that's a advance payment on a contract with those two orthopedic companies to provide services through the year, because that's why it's an even $9,000. Can you confirm that?
The Boss is one of the athletic training companies. They have
Right.
a training arm of
Right.
the orthopedic business. I know that Battery Creeks, for example, their athletic trainer works for Boss. So yes, sir, there would be, now we have more than one contract when it comes to athletic training services, I believe. So across the other side of county, is likely to be a different company. But I have to follow up and check on that with
Please follow up,
procurement.
because it seems, since again, it's an even number, $9,000. It's not a bill for Johnny came in for some knee problems and so on, and then we send a bill back to us, because that bill wouldn't be exactly $9,000.
Right.
Now, if we're prepaying it so we can get faster services or something like that, that makes sense.
There most likely will be athletic training services,
Yeah.
if they're even amounts and flowing
Exactly.
through, because each of our
Yeah.
high schools
Yeah.
and middle schools have
Okay.
training.
Tanya, I can answer the last 3 questions quickly, so we'll have to follow up.
Yes, ma'am.
What we do, the $1,000 transactions that you were questioning were a single Amazon purchase through Whale Branch Elementary School for their school and for Davis, and they're allocated $1,000 to 2 different account numbers, and then the remaining balance was coded to a third. So they didn't buy exactly $1,000, they just allocated it out per fund.
And then, okay.
The Beaufort Ortho or Boss Orthopedics, depending on how it shows up, they do $9,000 annually without supplies to all of the high schools, and then $300 annually to each of the middle schools for athletic training services, and that's our contracted services that we.
Okay, that makes sense. Very good. Thank you.
I am sitting here.
That's what we're here for. Thank you. And the next one is on page 12. It is Geiger Company, which I assume is a plumber, for a 100 gallon water heater. Okay, 100 gallon water heater. Not surprising. What is surprising is it was $9,617.73. Now, I bought water heaters before, and I didn't pay $9,000 for it. I can understand it might be a super duper high efficiency or whatever, but $9,000? That seems a bit outrageous.
Can you help us identify what area?
That's on page number 12,
Prager.
Prager Company Incorporated. Going down about a third of the way down,
100-gallon.
100-gallon water heater, $9,617.73.
Ladies Island Elementary.
Ladies Island Elementary School.
That was a work order for maintenance. What is the typical size, number of gallons of a home water heater?
75 to 100. And it's normally 700 at the max. So
This was-
9,000 is way over, unless, my Renai,
It's a BTULP water heater. I don't know exactly what that means, or the difference that they have. And it is
okay,
Sure. I think it's me.
somebody's got the speaker on. Okay, we need to check that out.
Yes, sir, we'll do that.
You don't want to buy, $1,000 toilets and that kind of stuff. The Air Force does that. Okay, page 21. Interstate transportation activity bus, $174,135. I had no idea that a bus costs that much.
Prices have substantially increased in the
Yes.
last couple of years for activity buses.
I'm not questioning the cost. I'm just
Yes.
surprised at what that costs and that's paid for out of capital.
Yes, that's 8% dollars.
Right, right.
I know that Beaufort High was in desperate need of a new activity bus.
Yeah. Well, there's another one on page 25. It's national bus sales. This is for district office, special revenue federal, paid for by federal funds,
yes.
$72,000.
I believe that was for McKinney-Vento. That was for the McKinney-Vento fund.
Homeless
The
grant,
homeless?
yes, federal homeless funds.
Mhm.
And this is a small bus, not half the size of the activity bus that you're referring to. So this would go long distances to outreach areas, possibly out to the borders of the county to get students who are, or transport students who are homeless throughout the county and to school and that.
I had no idea.
And they may only be used for homeless. They can't be used for anything else. It
I
cannot be.
had no idea
substituted.
that we were doing
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is one of the restricted areas that is eligible for those funds. There are a small number of things that are eligible,
that. Okay,
and highly, monitored
okay.
as well.
All right. Thank you. Next item is page 29. This is very last entry on page 29. SC Department of Education, using state buses during summer school, we're paid back to the state $21,000. Really? Really? We had to pay back for these are transporting our students, but it's for summer school, and we have to pay them back?
Yeah, because she can't just check it. Is it 20,000? 3. Right there.
Well, we might have to go to operations to find out, why we do that, but that's something I'd be willing to call my state senator, or my state representatives to say, what in the world is going on? That we have to pay the state back to use their buses to pick up our students for summer school.
Yes, sir. It looks like there's a mileage rate that's being charged based on the trips for summer school. Is what I'm gathering from the invoices. Is that what you see as well?
We don't pay a mileage rate during the rest of the school year.
Because I'm assuming it's because they're state buses, but I will definitely go through and work with transportation to get a definitive answer on that.
Yeah, that just doesn't make sense to me. Okay. That's enough fun for that month. We can talk about the consolidated report for July. We talked about July and the transparency report, not just talking about the June one without the transparency report. And are there any questions about the July consolidated report? Kim? I didn't see anything unusual in that. Well, hearing no other issues, we will drive on. Okay. I want to make the statement to the public that's watching this, if anybody watches it, that what you're seeing in the drama that's going on with the county council and their questions and subpoenas to provide the background of what's gone on in the past there. I want to assure the public that this school district, with a budget that's twice of what the county's budget is, does have board oversight of all purchases. And no one's going to be buying blankets or building outdoor gymnasiums without the board knowing about it. We have checks and balances in the Beaufort County School District to prevent that kind of foolishness. Okay, that's my editorial opinion. Now let's go to ESSER update. And we are 18 days before the bell rings and it stops. And I see we still got some money to spend.
Well, it's all planned, so we just have to have the expenditures hit.
It's encumbered.
Not technically, but it's planned. We got a few more pay periods to hit. That's gonna show up, 2 more checks, and then we have waiting on actual payment for the last little bit of HVAC systems as well. We just submitted an amendment Friday to make the moves. You saw some places that were negative and just
Okay, we gotta make darn sure that we get this processed. cannot have a vendor not turning in an invoice.
We smile because we've already addressed it aggressively. So at Beaufort High School, there is an HVAC unit that has been delivered. I believe it's been installed or at least partially installed. We are waiting on the final pay applications for those construction. And so we put some pressure on the construction folks to put pressure on the contractors last week, once again. And we did get an invoice in for $37,000 last week, but we are anticipating another over $100,000 payout from that one project. 150,000. So half of this is one vendor. So we've made clear that if that paperwork is not in by this Friday, and we're able to pay the payout by next Friday, that we will be reallocating those resources so as that we do not return anything to the State Department of Education. So that has been made very clear, and then we will reallocate it to another expense that we would able to utilize under the activities that we have already budgeted for with the state. So yes, sir, we've been, we're on it.
Okay, let me be very clear though. We've done exceptionally well with this program. Where I have seen problems is at this time of the year, at the end of the budget year, when we come back down and in the federal government, if you don't pay it, if you don't spend it in the year, you won't get it the next year. So there's huge pressure to spend every dime. We're not that same issue. But what I'm saying to you is most of the time, when somebody does something stupid and pays for something stupid, it's with those end of year funds to try to get the very last dime spent. If you turn in a couple $100, $1,000, $10,000, don't be ashamed, but don't get tempted to buy something that we read about in the paper the next day saying, oh, guess what? They bought some underwater basket weaving equipment. We don't want to do that.
That's our philosophy as well. We'd love for
Okay.
it to be 100%, but if it's 99.99,
Perfect.
you know,
Yeah.
we're okay.
Don't
Yeah.
get tempted
No.
to do something that you're gonna regret seeing in the front page of the Gazette.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Campbell, any questions on? Mr. Dallas, do you have any questions about the ESSER dashboard?
No, no, sir. I don't have the documents in front of me, but I thought it was an excellent session in terms of appropriate, just asking for explanations. And so we'll follow up on the operations side to support what you're asking and what the public wants to see as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And it's on the screen.
Okay,
If he has his computer, he can see it. It's on the screen if he has his computer.
Okay. We have the quarterly financial report. And this is actually the end of the fiscal year. And this is an unusual report. And there's a lot of things that are, it's unusual in that we have more money than we anticipated. Okay, so why don't you start with that? I've got a bunch of questions as we go along. I'm sure Mr. Campbell and Mr. Dallas have as well.
So this report is more brief than what you typically get in a normal quarter. And that's because we are busy trying to give auditors what they're asking for, close out the final year's financial statements in every individual fund, which we have several of: general fund, special revenue, EIA, student activities, capital, and so on. So we're busy preparing the financials, reviewing them, and getting documents. And everything has to be, our trial balance has to be to the auditors by Monday. So we are pushed about a week earlier this year. But this report is the same as we've done for the last probably 10 years or so, the format at least. The information, although, is much different, like you mentioned, than what we've seen in past years. So our general fund revenues are estimated at 104.7% of the budget. Last year was 102.2.
What page are you on?
I'm on the first page of the executive summary, right behind the cover sheet.
Okay, got it.
So we have it primarily, it is local property tax collections. Revenues are reporting in at 106.5%. Those are the bulk of our general fund revenues, so that's where we start. We collected a little less at 104.5% last year. Those percentages are really important to us because that's one of the measuring sticks that we use to see how we're doing. Collections in this fiscal year are budgeted. They're collecting. We're collected 207.8, or reported those revenues at a 207.8 million, and they are greater than last year's budget by $12 million. Now, of course, we planned an increase in that budget, but we are estimating that tax revenues. So, excuse me, I'm sorry, I think I'm confused out with the next sentence. We are expecting 12.7 million over budget this FY24 fiscal year. So that is due to growth in the assessed values and growth in the tax revenue. So estimated revenues are actually 21 million more than the prior audited year. And again, we are seeing massive increases in property tax revenue, property tax values, and the value of each mill that we project. This is primarily due to the reassessment. So every 5 years, we're required to do a reassessment. This was a reassessment year, and that is one of the reasons for that.
That's just for the public that's listening. How much did we drop our millage based on this?
We did drop our millage. We rolled back 8 mills, I believe. And then, so we had a significant drop in our millage for operating mills. And then we offset with a 4 mill increase. So I think overall we had a 4 mill reduction overall. So we did do that rollback and did plan for some reductions in that millage. Otherwise, it would have been $2.468 million, even more than this, or more, potentially more. Delinquent tax and penalties. We have received information for the months of July and August in 2024 that we typically accrue back into the fiscal year. Those numbers came in unusual. So delinquent was actually a debit instead of a credit. So that means that we received significantly less than the prior year. So we're going back and having conversations with the treasurer's office to see if there was some reasoning for that or if there was an error in the report. So I'm saying that to report that we did not accrue anything in this statement. We accounted for 0 delinquent penalties for the months of July and August, where we would normally have $500,000 more or so. And so we will be monitoring that, working through that with the treasurer's office and getting final numbers before we book those in the financials.
Let me restate what you just said. Normally what we get in July and August are people that have paid late, people that have gone out and contested what their tax rate was, and lost the contest and have to pay, and also the normal kind of taxes that we get through sales of cars and so on. Correct.
Yes.
And you say at that, for those 2 months we've gotten.
We haven't received August yet. For July, there appeared to be rebates instead of income.
Okay.
So for the so there were
Rebates on somebody that won their tax contest.
yes.
That they contested.
So it was an unusual situation. We were trying to get some answers on, explanation of,
Okay.
is it accurate? And if so, what is it? Why is this different than a normal month? So we have not included that. So again, these are all preliminary numbers that we're reporting, but just know that we have not reported in any of the delinquent penalties and taxes. State revenues are also up from our original projections, about, we're estimated at 102.8%.
Okay, we're on the next page.
I'm in the bottom section of the first page,
Bottom section.
state, federal, and other revenues. And the primary reason, there were three main accounts that were over our projections, exceeded our projections, and the biggest one was state aided classrooms, which is our primary, that used to be the EFA number. And so our projections came in, what we were told we would receive was $1.7 million less than what we actually received. So we benefited from additional revenues in that category, as well as retiree insurance and school bus driver salary payments. So anytime there's an increase in bus driver salaries or retiree insurance, then we typically receive a bump in the budget mid-year that we hadn't expected previously. So.
Okay.
All right, any other significant things? Spending is just as far as expenditures in the general fund budget are right on point. We're at 99.3%, so we are slightly under budget.
Next page.
On the next page, yes, sir. Mhm. So under the general fund expenditure schedule B, and the chart below that shows both the revenues and the expenditures. And currently, we do have, as the board has made, approved the motion to move any excess over 7.9 million to the capital projects fund. So that means that we will have an addition to fund balance of 7.9 million, as included or presented to the board on August 1st of 2024. And that would bring or keep our fund balance at a 20.1% fund balance, which will keep us in good standing with our credit rating. We do anticipate a $9.9 million transfer to the capital projects fund, but we will bring back any final numbers to the board closer to the December 1st deadline. And this brings us to 73 days of operations of expenditures. So the standard is 60 days. And so that does put us in a good position to be able to cover and manage any unforeseen circumstances, weather events, and that sort of thing. So
Before you go on, the total spending reported at 99.3% of the $340 million budget. Prior year spending was 999 or 99.9%. So we underspent a total of $2,363,334. Okay.
yes, sir.
And can you break down the percentage of where that came from? Is it slippage? I would expect that 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits, so that I would expect intuitively that 80% at least of that 2.3 million is slippage.
If I can get you to turn over to Schedule A, about 2 more pages. So the second page of Schedule A, it says it has revenues, expenditures, and other financing sources and uses. So that revenues, that one more, yes, right here. That expenditure section will be able to answer your question with this section. So you'll see under expenditures, it says current, and then you'll see instruction is the first line. So if you follow that to the far right, variance with final budget, is $680,802. So in the expenditure section, again, instruction is the first row.
Right.
And follow that to the far column, $680,802. That was what was remaining in instructional categories. Support services is 1.2 million. That would be anything in support would be maintenance, custodial, finance, HR, all of those support, not providing direct instruction. Many times energy, technology, all those areas are in that category. And then payments to other governmental units is to other agencies such as the charter school. And then there's the TAM debt service, which we did not utilize this year of 20,000. So those are the categories that demonstrated the savings that you're referring to, the $2.36 million. Yes.
But you didn't answer my question as far as inside those numbers,
Mhm.
how much of that is personnel slippage?
We didn't categorize it in this way, but we can certainly go back and be able to provide that to you at our next meeting.
That's a key thing.
Mhm.
And we're always going to have that as budgeted positions aren't filled. Budgeted positions, the individual leaves in the middle of the year. But I'm concerned about slippage. Because when we have slippage, that means our employees are oftentimes compensating for somebody that's not there. So they're working harder. Well, if they're working harder, I need to pay them for that. That's why ultimately, I would like to see some way that we can account for that and reimburse. I hate to see personnel budget money being unspent. Because if we're doing our budgeting properly, we're not budgeting for excess people. We're budgeting for just exactly the number of people we need to do the job. And if we have money left over, that means employees are compensating in one of two ways. They're compensating by not providing all the services that we should, or they're working their tails off to try to take the place of the people that are not there. So that's why I'm always going to be looking at that, because 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits, folks. And I'm not going to worry about, well, we didn't have to buy, an extra fixture in a bathroom and we save some money there. That's noise level, that's chump change. The big amount is salaries and benefits. So every time I see that, I ask myself, how could we do better? How could we compensate our employees that are having to do more with less, support less people there? So, okay, let's go ahead.
That really concludes my report. We do have a full schedule of all funds as well.
Yeah.
These are still all preliminary, but we're in the process of reviewing the year-end financials and making some small tweaks to these reports. So you would see capital projects, for example, is an area of note. If you look from the bottom, our fund balance is down $68 million. Basically what we're doing, that means that we're finishing a lot of projects, had a lot of spending, less bond issues. We didn't have as many bond issues, and hadn't begun issuing bonds for the 2023 referendum until August of this fiscal year. So we're drawing down those funds to finalize the 2019 projects as well as 8%. So that's a big area of note here.
Let's go to Schedule A. Let's go to revenues. Federal. We received 47.8% of what we had budgeted for federal, the total of 650,000, we actually received 310,000. Why do we have a shortfall of that much of federal funds?
So those federal funds are made up of two things: impact aid funds. So those are, Beaufort receives funding from the federal government because we're a federally impacted area. We have federal installations throughout the county. So those make up a very small amount. The majority of, I would say about $50,000 of this budget. The majority of that is E-rate reimbursements, and those are solely related to the voice and internet services that we are paying for through the general fund. So those are day-to-day operational expenses, which are eligible for a portion of which are eligible for reimbursement. So they're on a claims basis and highly scrutinized by the Federal Communications Commission. So the timing is the key to that. We are waiting on some reimbursements to come back and have had a couple of reviews over the course of the last year of deeper dive reviews, just as a matter of normal operations. So I would anticipate that we'll see those additional revenues coming in the new year.
Where is Title I money shown in
One
revenue?
is on the page where the all funds category is, this one.
Yeah.
And it's under the special revenue category here, second column. And you'll see revenues are, you have $1.5 million in local revenue. You move down a little, that's state money that we received, and $36 million of federal. Title I is in that number, along with IDEA funds. And we have some Title IV funds, professional development funds. ESSER funds are in there as well. So we had about $20 million of ESSER fund spending this year, or $12 million of ESSER fund spending this year as well. So that's made up of COVID money, all the titles, Title I, 4, 5, whatever, all the other title funds that we have.
I saw that it was listed in another place.
Mhm.
My question is, why isn't those federal funds shown in the summation of revenues instead of just put off on one side? Why aren't in revenues federal, those special funds aren't listed as federal revenue instead of as special revenue funds?
Because the accounting these are accounting requirements that categorize them in those special funds. So these are all the 200 funds and which are federal.
I understand that.
Yeah. Now, when we do the final financial report, that will expand and show you every single fund, all of the major funds, Title I, Title II, Title IV. And so it breaks them out in the financial report. We didn't do that for this summary because that takes extensive time and effort.
The reason I'm saying this is I understand that you have a different accounting practices that you must follow. Got it. But I have to take this out to the public. And I have to show them when they ask me, what are you spending your money on? Where do you get the money? I need to be able to show them a simple breakout. Say, this is what we're spending. This is what we budgeted. This is what we spent. I can't do that. And when I start talking about special revenue and other things, the cloud goes over the face and they think I'm just BSing them to get them to go away.
Mm-hmm.
The board needs to have a macro report. What you give out to the auditors is a micro report. The board needs macro data to understand the revenues and the expenditures so that we can, without going out and teaching everybody financial accounting system. This is what we get in. This is where we get it. And you can just say, this is federal, period. And then if you want to know how federal breaks out, we have another page on federal breakout. This is what we get from state. Just the macro. And then we have a page that shows state. And this is what we get for local. See, that's my problem with our reports that the board gets. We do not have the expertise to understand all the different pieces. We need a macro accounting. And so what I'm saying is, this is exactly what you need to give to an auditor. This is exactly what you need internally to monitor. But for a product for the board, this isn't exactly what we need.
So what we're working on now is capturing all those details, ensuring every account is accurate and has backups.
Right.
And I'm reviewing financial statements. I just reviewed special revenue, EIA, food service. So all those details are in that work. And then we hand it over to the auditors to compile that. We give the trial balance, every account number, 50, 100,000 account numbers to the auditors, and they put it in a format that is prepared in what we call the AFR, the annual financial report. That has all of the detail you're looking for. It may be, I think that maybe you are looking for a different format than what that provides, because it does break out special revenue into every title or every single fund that you're looking for. So if they're looking for that kind of detail, we can pull open the AFR and point directly to it.
Yeah, oh, I have no
But if
doubt
we're
with that.
looking for a summation of the federal funding sources for the school district, that would just be a simple collapse or summary of the data that's in there by just one revenue number by fund. And that certainly could be done. It's just a different way of,
Right.
and we could probably pull it out pretty quickly out of our accounting software
You
pull it by revenue
you
source.
understand my point. My point is, the board has to approve the quarterly financial report. That's a thing that we have to approve. We do it every quarter. We have a motion to accept the quarterly financial report, correct?
We're actually now, if there's one OE that refers to financial reporting and annual financial reporting, and we do it one time a year. So we ask for your approval one time of year, or acceptance of the report one time a year, and instead of every single quarter, so that it just shows all of the OEs and how we comply with those in one format. So we do it once a year now. Yes.
All right.
But I'll play with some formats, see what I can come up with that might be useful, that will condense it out of 250 pages, which are ACPR reports,
Yeah.
and try to get something as far as revenue sources for you that we can easily just export into a couple of pages, and you could carry around an extra summary of those revenues. So.
I bring this up because when I became the CFO of a community college, I had reports like this, and I'm not a CPA, so I was obviously underqualified for the position. It took me about a year to figure out we were in deep trouble because it was camouflaged in many pages that a layperson could not look at it and say, wait a minute, your fund balance has been going down every year for the last 10 years, and now we don't have enough money to pay the monthly bills. And so that's why I'm very sensitive about providing lay people. Very simple, but with background material if you have questions, so you can understand for a layperson what they're voting on, what they're feeling about our financial status.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, how to deal with the public to say, look, This is how much we get. This is how much we spend. And if you want to know, each is behind it. I got lots of backing material. So that's a general comment. Now, let's,
And keep in mind that each one of these special revenue and
Right.
EIA, there's about 100 funds in
I
there.
understand.
So we
Understand.
would pick the most significant to
Yeah,
break out,
exactly.
million, multi-million dollar
Exactly,
programs and then
Right.
collapse some of the
Right.
others, so.
right. Let me ask you a question. Debt service interest budgeted for 20,000. What was that? What was that?
That was the TAN interest, so we budgeted 20,000, but
budgeted
then
20.
we didn't need it, so
Okay, got it.
we were
That's
able
it
to
was
let that
TAN.
flow back,
All right.
return to the budget.
Now, the last page. All kinds of questions because I'm looking at the very bottom line, fund balance. 72,272,782 is our budget at the end of the fiscal year, our fund balance.
That is a preliminary.
Understand,
Not quite done yet. We're doing
Understand.
some year-end
Preliminary,
adjustments.
which
yes.
is 20.1%. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Debt service fund balance at the end of the year is 20,838,736.
And we just know that in September, there's no additional tax revenue. It's coming in after
We
June
have
30th. And
principal and
September
interest.
are just interest payments.
interest.
So we only have principal and interest in March, but September 1st, probably there's another $16 million coming due, which will bring that down to about $4 million by December 31st.
That's- Understand. Now this capital project funds, this is the bottom line here, 93,971,206. Explain to me what that is.
So capital projects funds are going to include your 8% funds. They're going to include your referendum funds, any remaining balances in any of those funding sources. We had just issued a $30 million bond when this occurred. So we do have cash on hand available for spending at that specific date. Since then, we hadn't issued another referendum bond until the end of August. So this cash flow has to pay for any pay applications that come through July, August until the next bond issue is made.
So that's what's in the bank.
These dollars are at the
Treasurer's
county
office,
treasurer's
yeah.
office, and they are invested in local government investment pool investments, earning interest for us. But those are sources of revenue are primarily bond proceeds.
Last night I was at the clock and I thought I heard $50 million.
50 million was the bond anticipation note that we issued, the first bond issuance of the referendum, 2023 referendum. Those were issued August 29th of 2024, so that will be in fiscal year.
The next fiscal year.
That will be on the first quarter financial report of next year,
Got it. Okay, that's right.
which
Kind
will
of thought
come soon.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we'll have another, will it be next?
Okay, and internal service fund, 1,636,833. What's that?
Internal service fund, we are self-insured from the school district for purposes of workers' compensation. And so this is a balance with an amount of expenditures, about 1 year of expenditures in reserve.
So this is what, if someone files a claim against us for X number of dollars,
Yes.
we got $1.6 million.
Yes, we pay out dollar for dollar for those claims.
Right,
And so we expend, since we self-insure, we pay out dollar for dollar. So this is a reserve of 1 year
okay,
of those claims.
okay. And the $9,040,670 food service, that's your fund balance for the
Food
food
service.
service.
Yes, sir. That is, okay, so revenues in the food service fund are primarily USDA revenues coming in. The main source of expenditure is the contracted cost to the nutrition group. So you've got about 13 million coming in, about 9 million of expenditures is the nutrition group. And that is a contracted cost based on number of meals served. The rest is supplies, materials. Any profits we have, we are allowed to keep anything over, I believe it's 30 days of operations is considered to be an excess operating balance, and we are required to spend that down and reinvest it back in the food service fund program. It must be for the benefit of students for the purposes of nutrition, food and nutrition. So we have a plan. We have had a plan for 3 years, but we continuously have large profits in this program. And so we have fast-tracked a 5-year refresh cycle of capital improvements of ovens and steamers and warmers into a 2-year process. And we have replaced over the last 3 years, probably $3 million of equipment. We have replaced all the vehicles. We have purchased new refrigerated box trucks that are needed to transport food across county or accept deliveries when other storage facilities are not functional or not present. So we have a plan. The state monitors this closely with us, and we have done at least $3 million worth of additional spending in that area, and we continue to do that. So you'll see new shade structures and dining areas outside of many of our schools. Those are purchased. Picnic tables right outside of our cafeterias in many schools. Those are all purchased with the food service dollars.
I bring this up because I just recently saw on television an expose about public school lunch program. And they had chefs in there and said, how can you feed somebody at $1.50 a meal and that kind of stuff? And when I say we have $9 million in there, I'm saying, well, why aren't we spending more money on giving them more food?
It's
And I
actually,
understand that we have to buy.
the food is actually purchased from the contractor. So the contractor buys all of the food and prepares all of the food. So they manage the inventories of the food and all of that. So all of that inventory belongs to them. So what we're doing is trying to improve the dining experience, the equipment that they work with, and getting those all up to speed. In addition to that, expanding dining areas, particularly during COVID, so they can eat outdoors or not be so close together in the dining spaces that sometimes aren't large enough when you have a lot of students coming at one time. So we're using those funds to just completely reinvest in the program. We've also hired, which was badly needed, 2 additional. We were required to have 1 Beaufort County School District employee in the food service program. So Ginger Weekly is the accountant that works in food service. We added 2 additional people 2 years ago. And so we have an operations manager. She works as an area supervisor, side by side with the T&G supervisors. And then we have a bookkeeper in that area as well. And she does all the, she and the operations manager do all the monitoring that is required of our after school programs, our during the day programs. And so that monitoring has them in schools every day, making sure that the meal on the plate is a reimbursable meal. So highly bureaucratic funding source and program. One of the most complex that we deal with is in this area.
And that wasn't mentioned. What was mentioned was, and they showed congressmen were given the standard school lunch. And it was a piece of mystery meat, slice of bread, and a couple slices of apples. They said, that's the meal. And that was on when I was looking at this, he said, oh, we got $9 million in the bank.
And just know those nutritional requirements are very strict. They have a specific serving size they miss. So if you look at the serving spoons, they were half a cup. That is only what they're allowed to give. So you may have a big Brawley football player coming up to the lunch line, we can't give him any extra on that reimbursable meal. He may come up and pay for additional meal. First one is free with our CEP program. But, so the serving sizes and the calorie counts of every meal is very highly restricted. And so serving sizes tend to be one of the areas that are a bone of contention, I guess, with some of our students. But we have very strict guidelines of how much you can serve and what those calorie counts are on the plate. So that ties our hands a bit when it comes to, some of the things that our students are looking for.
I understand all that. And sometimes there's the right amount, but the quality of that amount is not what it could be. And I'm just telling you that when this goes to the public and they say, oh, you got $9 million, now I can explain $2 million, $3 million support and capital improvement and that kind of stuff. But I'll have a heck of a time explaining this to the average parent about $6 million sitting in the treasurer's office. Hasn't been spent, budgeted, but hasn't been spent. I'm just giving you, you're gonna need to have a very, very good briefing that you can give to the full board about this, because this is something that's gonna come up. And we need to inform the public, first of all, remind them that every student in Beaufort County is getting free breakfast and lunch. That's number one. And number two, what they're getting, there are the requirements that you just mentioned. And I still have to chew on this amount of money on that. Okay, let's move on. Student activity is 3,162,000. That's another area where we have excess funds, predominantly in a couple high schools. It's just sitting there. You've heard this before from me.
And so the principals, because we've been talking to those who have some excess balances. I know that at least one has actively worked on some major areas. We did have to approve or find the right student activity account to allow us to be able to approve. So we have some schools that are bringing that balance down. Also, we used $750,000 of fund balance this year. And some of that is attributed to the technology office. They have considerably drawn down, I think basically drained it dry, the technology usage fees that had accumulated there. And we used all of that on laptop repairs, new iPads, and some carrying cases as well. So those funds have been drawn down completely this year. So we are working to actively utilize those funds for the things that we're needing.
That's all. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything on this quarterly report?
No, on this, she answered my question. I had some concerns about delinquents tax whether we were getting funds, and you answered that, so that's fine.
Ms. Hay is on as well. Ms. Hay is on.
Oh, Ms. Hay? Ms. Hay, do you have any questions about the quarterly financial report?
I do not, but I would like it recorded that I had been waiting in the waiting room since 2:38 p.m. So, but I did not have questions about it. I had overlooked all the information prior to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't know that it did not show up on her, that she was waiting. So,
Okay, we're gonna have to fix that.
yes.
Mr. Campbell or Mr. Carlton, do you have any?
Yes, sir. I think this was a very helpful session. I'd like to reiterate and what Colonel Guyer, Vice Chair Guyer is saying. We do get asked about the optics of excess cash. So we're between a rock and a hard place. And I think the presentation that collectively you're discussing, where if we have excess cash, as long as we can say sort of like you do in other areas where it's already encumbered, to what extent and show a percentage that's already encumbered, it doesn't create the visual that we're just sitting on it. And I know that's not what is happening. So I applaud the team for how well they've managed the financials. But this is an election year. And so people are asking questions. And don't for also just before coming on to this this presentation, a friend from Colombia sent me left a message that the Bradley Amendment had been ruled on by Justice Hill. So that may be a politically energetic discussion topic as well. So the reason that these questions are coming is so that we're prepared and can answer them and head them off at the pass, so to speak. And everybody's supporting, not, let me rephrase that. People are supportive of public education. They just want to make sure we're showing fiscal discipline. So thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of what we have. Future topics, any future topics, Mr. Campbell? Ms. Hay, do you have any future topics?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Dallas, do you have any future topics?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you for asking, Colonel.
Do you have any future topics?
Yes, sir, as always. So I'm not only, we're gonna put the June transparency and June $100,000 report back on next month with the August reports. Second of all, we are going to place OS 22 parent support groups on the next agenda, which is booster clubs, PTOs. We'll give you an update on the new state law and some other things that we're working on in the department, and we'll have completed by the time of our next meeting. And women-owned minority business NWBE reporting. We have another 6 months. Ms. Yinger has prepared for us. And it actually looks very good. So it's very promising. So that's all I'll say about that. But those are the items that I have for the next meeting. And our next quarterly financial, so our end of month is September. I think we actually report that in November, early November. So that won't be on our October report. So.
And we have a date for next.
Let's see. For October 10th,
October 10th.
2:30.
See, back yet. I'm not back.
About the 17th.
I will.
Go ahead, Ms. Hay.
No, I was just going to say that I wouldn't be available that day either on the 10th.
About the 17th.
17th.
Yes, sir. Is there any option to push it up a smidge just due to scheduling conflicts I have? Push it up a smidge timing wise.
Timing wise, Mr. Campbell and I are pretty flexible on time to start. So what would be good for you?
Well, if we could push it up to 1, that would be amazing. 1 p.m.
Got a problem with 1 p.m.?
That's not a problem.
1 p.m.
Number 17?
on the 17th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, done.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I want to just make an announcement that on October 16th, Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Gauze, and myself have scheduled a meeting with Mr. Moore to do Beaufort County Superintendent, or not superintendent, supervisor, whatever, director,
County manager or county administrator.
county administrator. There, that's good. And what the purpose of that meeting is talk about collaboration, improving collaboration between the county and the school district. And one of the things that I'm planning on doing is taking a copy of our transparency report, our board budget report, and our P card. I'd like to get a copy of our P card rules. how our policy and how we monitor P cards?
Not to interrupt you, sir, but the county operates on the state code while we operate on the model code. So our policies and procedures they could model some after them, but they have a strict policies with P card they're supposed to be following via the state. So, but it's always good to have a copy. I love when everybody reads our policies and
No,
procedures, so.
We'd like to describe that and tell them that we've figured out how to do P cards here.
Yes, sir.
And we would be willing to share that experience or offer that to you. Also, I'm willing to share how you monitor expenditures and what the board does and offer to share with them. Here's what we do. This is how we do it. And it's up to you how you manage it. But we don't have the problems because of the way we're structured. They have problems, I believe, because of the way they are structured. And so if we can collaborate, and not only that, but collaboration on referendums. I hope the referendum passes in the next 60 days. I hope it does.
Which one, the ones that tax?
They're petty things.
You got some problems.
I think that I predict that they will have a result that's very similar to the result we had for our referendum in 2017, where we got 29% voting for it. And I kind of want to share with them how we turned that around.
Yeah. Well, they are supposed to select a committee. And we read this. And the last two meetings ago, I attended the county meeting. And I asked the Morse, I said, why haven't we selected committee members? And he couldn't give me an answer.
Right. And that's what we want to offer them. Here's a footprint of how to do it.
Right.
How to have a committee, a review committee to establish the referendum, then have a clock to oversee the referendum. But I asked them about it. They said that the clock was going to report to the county council. No. It's got to report to the county administrator. It's like the clock reports to Dr. Rodriguez. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to be asking for samples of that for the 16th. So this will be the day before our meeting. If I can just have an extra copy.
Forwarded a copy to Riverview today, so I'll just take that email and forward it to you.
Okay. All right. That'd be very helpful. Do I have any other announcements or issues? Hearing none, we will adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.